Did you hear the one about the time the reigning Super League champions came down to Coventry for a game of rugby league on a Friday night? It's not a fairy tale, it really happened, and we were there to see it, and in this episode, we've got the full story of when the Coventry Bears took on the Leeds Rhinos. This is the world's greatest podcast about the Coventry Bears. This is Bare Necessities. Before we start, by mistake we said that Chris Vitellini only scored one try and that Dan Gover scored their second try of the night. As it happens, Chris Vitellini scored both of them. Apologies to both players. Our bad. Anyway, on with the show.
So yes, welcome to Bare Necessities. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson. I'm sat here in a very cold Butts Park Arena post-Leeds match with my co-host Craig Cathcart. Craig, how are you doing? It's been a brilliant night to be involved with the Bears, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing, Dave. It's the first game I've been to at the Bears where the stadium has, the main stand has been pretty much full, and we've seen some really, really good rugby tonight, really high quality from both sides, really. The Bears really acquitted themselves well, and just a brilliant atmosphere tonight. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, I think if this is a way of kicking off 20th anniversary season, I can't wait for the rest of it. So a quick reflection of the match, because after all, that is why everyone was here. Some very, very talented Leeds players on show tonight. Leeds ended up winning the game 70 points to 14. Second half in particular was a bit of a blowout. But there were some real highlights for the Bears within the game. Bears scored back-to-back tries in the first half. Scored a nice try to finish the game on a well. So the Bears try scorers were Chris Vitellini on debut after a really good break from Dante Samuels, another player making his debut. Dan Gover scored as well in the first half, and then Hayden Freeman scored right at the end of the game. But Craig, obviously the result quite a big win for Leeds, but we did far better than the Coventry team from 1913. We scored some points. But there's definitely positives to be had from that match tonight. New team, new players, linking up, looking good, looking like a solid squad already. Yeah,
I mean, the result in itself wasn't unexpected. I expected probably a big Leeds win tonight. I was hoping that the Bears newcomers would acquit themselves well, and they did. I mean, in the first half, it was really competitive all the way through the first half, really. Yep. Leeds ran away with it a little bit in the second half. You could see the pace that they had, how quickly they play the ball. They're just on another level, but the Bears players really played well, and they'll take a lot of positives from it, and a really good experience to play this game tonight in front of a big crowd.
So we've got quite a few interview guests for you on this particular episode of Bare Necessities. Later on in the show, we're going to hear from Martyn Sadler, the Rugby League Express editor. We've also got Phil Caplin, who's the 4020 magazine editor, and Peter Smith from the Yorkshire Evening Post. We'll also hear from Bears CEO Alan Robinson, who I think is a very happy man right now. But first, we should go over and hear from not only from Coventry Bears head coach Tom Tsang, who we will hear from in a minute, get his post-match thoughts. But tonight, as if we didn't have enough storylines already, tonight was also the first match in a coaching role for Leeds legend Rob Burrow, and I managed to track him down after the game. So we'll hear from Rob Burrow and then from Tom Tsang. So Rob, your first game as a coach, pretty convincing result. How was it being on the touchline and not on the pitch?
Probably more nervous, or as nervous as it has been playing. Totally understood the game from a nervous point of view and in the areas of the game, but you just look at it from a completely different view as a coach. You've got to watch every position, whilst as a player you just concentrate on your position. So very similar how I felt, quite nervous going into it, but really enjoyed it. It was one of them, excited, nervous, and I wanted to learn as a coach. So there were times in that game which tested me as they're going to do, but really enjoyed it, mate, and it was a great experience.
You must be really pleased with the performance your lads put in tonight.
Yeah, it was. I mean, early on, coming in to the unknowns, it's nerve-wracking in its own, own right, but I thought the first 25 minutes, I thought, you know, the Coventry lads were great. And I thought, wow, it's better than I anticipated. But the good thing about our boys is, you know, I think to be good and continue to be good, it's about doing it for extended periods of time. So eventually it took its toll. But, you know, I'm expecting Coventry to have a big year. And it's nice to know they've got all the Midland lads, and, you know, that's the way forward for this club. So
that's what I wanted to ask you actually was what are you going to be going back up to Leeds and saying about the Coventry Bears?
Oh yeah, they to say they're all Coventry lads as well, and all Midlands players, which isn't in a rugby league area, then I'm very impressed. You know, there's some real skillful players. There's some athletes there. Clearly, you know, it's a big rugby union area as well as anything else. But so they've got them there. They've just, I suppose, the more they play rugby league, the more get used to it. But there's certainly signs there of you know, developing the sport in this area.
And just as a last question, this is you're probably aware this is the start of the Bears' 20th anniversary season. Yeah. So, if you were to give the Bears a message going into this year and for their 20th anniversary, what would that message be?
I think just keep going with it, and the fact that, you know, after 20 years it's full of Coventry lads and all Midlands lads as such, and then I think that's going in the right direction. Certainly a message been done, and just to keep doing it and keep enjoying it, because you know, I was impressed by what I saw out there.
Rob, thanks so much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you back here in Super League in a few years. So Tom, we're back at it again,
yes.
Looking into a new season. Obviously not the score you wanted tonight, but lots of positives. I think scoring some tries against the Leeds Rhinos, looking good in attack, and that crowd tonight, the whole occasion. You must be excited for the new season.
Yeah, I can't wait. Obviously we've been training since middle of November. This game it couldn't have come soon enough. Sorry. It's our first run out as pretty much a brand new team, so we weren't really sure what to expect, especially against Super League opposition. They've got probably over 100 Super League appearances across that team, plus some really, really good young players who no doubt will be Super League stars of the future. So all things considered, it's been a fantastic event. Performance was okay. Second half, obviously, I think the fitness told, and some of the talent on the other side was just a little bit better. But we've got a lot of learning points that we can take out of it. We've still got over a month to go before the start of the league, so we'll be scrutinising the video, which will be invaluable, and making sure that we make those adjustments and improvements. But I think really at this point, like you said, attacking wise, not too far off when we had the ball. Defensively, we've got a lot of work to do, and more than anything, fitness.
And lots of new players in the side as well. I mean, at times again, it looked like they were gelling well. Combinations were looking good, considering it's so early. Again, you must be pleased with how the squad's coming together.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with the ball, and in an attempt to try and get some of those combinations working smoothly as early as we could do. I'm happy with where we are with that. Definitely, defensively, we do need to do some work, and just get, again, it's combinations and defence just as much as it is an attack, believe it or not. So it's making sure that those defensive combinations know exactly what everyone's doing, and but I'm happy with where we are right now. We've played quality opposition. It's given us a good benchmark, and we can only go forward from here.
And just a last question, because I think BBC Coventry and Warwickshire want to talk to you as well. So, just in terms of looking ahead to the start of the new season, are you champing at the bit to go, or are you still glad you've got a bit of a buffer before the start?
No, we want to get going as soon as we can do. Obviously, it's nice to still have 4 weeks or so that we can just iron out any of these little tweaks. We've got 2 more pre-season sort of games. We're playing London Broncos in 2 weeks in a training game, and then we're going down to South Wales for a training camp on the 10th of Feb for a bit of a friendly down there against Valley Cougars and a bit of a camp. So we've got a lot of ahead of us. We've got a busy schedule still. We need to make sure the guys are working hard and doing everything they can do in the time that they're not with us, to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward. But yeah, can't wait for that first game.
Great, thanks as always, Tom. We'll see you for the start of the season.
Thanks very much.
So that was the thoughts of Coventry Bears head coach Tom Tsang, and before that, Leeds under-19s coach and coach of the Rhinos team tonight, and general all-round Leeds legend Rob Burrow. Both of those coaches saying really positive things about the team. I think it's unsurprising that Tom can see so many positives, because we've said much of the same things. But it's really nice to have someone like Rob Burrow going back up to Leeds, saying what a good club Coventry Bears is and what a bright future they have.
Yeah, and I was in the hospitality area beforehand. 180 people in there. It was absolutely rammed. The bars were rammed in the stadium throughout. You know, that that in itself is a real positive. It shows that people here in Coventry want to come and watch quality rugby league. I hope lots of these people will come back and watch the Bears this season. It's a wonderful sport to watch, and it's great to hear Rob Burrow saying such positive things. And I think Tom as well can look forward to the season ahead. There's so many positives. I have to say I'm really impressed with a lot of the new guys that have come into the squad, and I think we've got a really strong squad this year.
I know neither of us are massive fans of singling out individual players, but I'm going to ask you to do exactly that. In terms of what we saw on the pitch tonight, were there any players that particularly caught your eye? I mean, I know I've been bigging up Dante Samuels in the preview purely based on his hair. I have to say, he put in a very good performance tonight as well. I feel like I'm justified in my selection of him as my favourite player.
Yeah, I mean, he never stepped back. Every charge forward, he was brilliant. I have to say, Errol Carter as well on the wing put in a really good performance. He was really solid. Obviously, Chris Vitellini. Paul Emanuele looks like he's going to be the playmaker this season. I think he's been brilliant. He's the general on the pitch. Obviously the Bears lost Brad Delaney. He's moved on now, but Paul Emanuele will, I think, fill that gap definitely. So,
and I think the big story to take away tonight, aside from the result being one thing and performance, lots of good stuff, but the real story tonight has just been what a celebration of rugby league in Coventry this has been. And you mentioned earlier, Craig, to see the stands so full of people. Leeds brought loads of fans who you can probably hear in the background right now. They're currently exploring the Butts Park pitch. But Craig, just try and get across what tonight has been like from a party atmosphere, feel-good point of view. It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
It means so much to the people of Coventry, to the Bears, to the supporters, and to Alan and everyone else involved in the club. I mean, so tonight I've been sat with guys that have, it's a 20-year anniversary game. I've been sat with guys that have played for the Bears over the years. I've been sat with some of the former Coventry University players that were involved in the early days of the Bears, and it's absolutely fantastic. The people have flown from all over to be at the game tonight, and it's what the club has achieved in a short space of time can't be underestimated. It's a club outside the heartlands, and it's a club that's here to stay. And what the next 20 years will bring, I don't know, but it's only positive. From what I can see, it's only positive. I mean, to see such a big crowd here tonight means that people have a real appetite for rugby league in Coventry, and I'm really looking forward to the season ahead and further seasons beyond that. I mean, it's a sustainable club, and it's here to stay.
So don't forget, of course, we have a brand new website now, covbearspodcast.com. We are at covbearspodcast on Twitter. You can always get in touch with us there. No Ask Mr. C questions this week because we're just talking about the Leeds game and generally reflecting on a wonderful night. But if you do have a question for Craig for future episodes, tweet it to us using Ask Mr. C. Right, I think it's time for you to hear some other voices from this wonderful evening we've had at the Butts Park Arena. So we're going to hear now from some of the big name journalists who have been in Coventry experiencing rugby league. So in a moment we'll hear from Phil Caplin from 4020 magazine and Peter Smith from the Yorkshire Evening Post. But first of all, let's hear my chat with Martyn Sadler, Rugby League Express editor.
Hi, I'm Martyn Sadler, the editor of League Express, the weekly rugby league newspaper.
Well, Martyn, welcome to Coventry. We're recording this at half-time of the Leeds game. What are your impressions of how the Bears are looking so far?
Well, I think the Bears are looking very, very enthusiastic and keen, but they're up against a strong Leeds side. Obviously not the Leeds first team, but it's a team mainly of academy players and reserve grade players that Leeds have brought down. But you've got to remember that they're a team of full-time players, and Leeds have the pick of some of the best young talent in the country, really. So it's not too surprising that they're well ahead at half-time, and we assume that they'll probably win the game fairly comfortably too. But I think Coventry have shown a lot of spirit, a lot of effort. They went 3 tries down fairly early, but they didn't get too dispirited, and they fought back with 2 tries of their own. But then Leeds scored another two to edge further ahead again. But I think the difference between the sides is that Leeds are brilliant at creating and then taking opportunities. Coventry just find it a bit harder to do that against a well-organised Leeds defence. But I think it's been an enjoyable game. The crowd have got behind Coventry Bears. It's great to see the stand full of people. I think there must be nearly 1,000 people here, if not more than that. It's my first visit to watch Coventry at this stadium, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm very glad that I came down.
And so Coventry Bears, as an idea, as a story, how much does it flicker on your radar in your day-to-day life and in what you do?
Well, significantly, because I'm a great lover of rugby league, and I'm something of an evangelical rugby league person. You know, I don't just write about the game and talk about the game, but I've got ambition for the game. I love to see the game expand. I love to see more people playing it, because, of course, you know, it's almost like a quasi-religion in a way. If you believe in something yourself, you take great pleasure from discovering that other people share your view of the game. So Coventry, I'm really delighted. I think Alan Robinson and everybody involved at the club has done a terrific job over the years. I was really thrilled when they came into the professional game, into the third tier. And I'm really optimistic, just talking to some of the people around here, that at some stage they're going to really develop their own talent, and they're going to ultimately burst through into a higher league, and you never know, ultimately that might involve them going into Super League a few years down the track. And, you know, I think Coventry, it's just the sort of city that ought to be suited to rugby league, and I'm quite certain that it is.
And expansion in general, I mean, obviously the last couple of years we've seen Toronto, Toulouse, there's talk of New York, and then there's obviously clubs such as the Bears and Hemel and the merger that's being planned to happen in Bristol. Do you see that as I'm guessing you see that as a good thing for the game? Do you see it as being a success so far?
Yes, I mean, obviously I was really disappointed when Oxford and Gloucester decided that they wouldn't compete this year, because whatever we say about expansion clubs, and you can't expect expansion clubs to come into the game and perform at the highest level straight away. Rugby league is a hard game to play, Dave. You can't. It's a game that looks simple, but actually is very, very difficult to play well at a high level, and it takes several years for any new club to get into its stride. Toronto has been a bit different, really, because they had a billionaire financing them, for whom money was no object, and they were able to recruit players who were full-time players playing in a part-time league. So inevitably they were always going to win the competition and gain promotion. I don't think there's ever much doubt about that. But I'm very, very keen to see expansion throughout the United Kingdom. I would love to see. I mean, I think it's great when people talk about New York and other teams from North America, but I'd also like to see more teams carrying the names of some of our major cities in this country. For example, we may be a sport associated with the north of England mainly, but we haven't got teams called Manchester or Liverpool in the competition. So that shows how limited our ambition has been in the past, and I think it's about time we became more ambitious and were able to go out and sell our sport more effectively than we have done in the past. But I think, we are hopefully starting to see progress, and Coventry is a shining example of that. I want to see all the expansion clubs doing well. Coventry, London Scholars, London Broncos, West Wales Raiders. I'm a great believer in rugby league in Wales, whether it's the Raiders or whether it's North Wales Crusaders. I'm very keen to see them doing well, and I'm very keen to see Newcastle Thunder doing well. And another wonderful city in the northeast of England. We need to have a bigger footprint, and we are slowly getting it, but it is a bit of a blow to see Oxford and Gloucester pulling out.
And just one last question, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We're obviously 2018 is the Bears' 20th anniversary season, so I wondered if you had a birthday message for the Bears as they go into the new season.
Well, my message to the Bears is to keep working hard. Ultimately, if you work hard, you get results, and I thought Gary Hetherington made that point here tonight at when he was speaking to the people in the hospitality room. Hard work brings its rewards. Don't just think that success is going to come of its own accord. Work hard for it, and it'll be all the more successful. And I'm pretty sure that everybody associated with this club has actually got that message, actually believes in it, and that's why I'm very confident that the club has a great future, and that there will be more nights like this, or more afternoons like this, when we'll see this stand absolutely crammed to the rafters, and we'll see a Coventry side that hopefully is winning, moving up the table, and ultimately gaining promotion and getting to a high level.
Brilliant, Martyn. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
My name's Phil Caplin. I wear a number of rugby league hats, one of which is managing editor of 4020 magazine.
And I'm Peter Smith from the Yorkshire Evening Post in Leeds.
Well, welcome both to Coventry and to the Butts Park Arena. I guess my first question really is, rugby league in Coventry and the Bears in particular, how much of an impact do they make for you guys based where you are in the Heartlands? Are they much of a story?
I think the first thing we need to do is wish you a happy birthday. Congratulations that you're in your 20th season. I go back a fair way with Coventry. I did my further education here, and we set up a team at Warwick University in 1979, which is actually the germination of probably rugby league in the city. Not that we're taking any credit for it, but there was myself who came down from Leeds and a good friend of mine from Hull who went to Warwick, and we started training up there and formed a little team. So I've always kept a passionate eye on what was happening down here. I think the fact that when we arrived this evening, I gave to Michael the team sheet from the 1913 game between Leeds and Coventry in the old Northern Union days.
Yes, the score that we're hoping to settle tonight.
Good luck to you on that one. I don't think it'll be the same, but the fact that proves that rugby league is not new, it's just reinventing itself. So there is a long history and association with this fine town, and pleased to be here to celebrate it.
I think there's only limited knowledge really generally in the Heartlands about Coventry. This is my first visit here, and I'm very impressed by the setup. It's for a League One ground very impressive, but I think Coventry have yet to make. People are aware of who the Coventry Bears are, but I think they've yet to make much of an impact, to be honest. But that'll happen as you progress, and as you climb up the league, and hopefully maybe get out of League One. Obviously, League One's not the highest profile competition, and there are some clubs in there outside the Heartlands. But it's certainly, from my initial impressions, it looks like you're making good progress here.
And in terms of making that further progress and making a bit more of an impression, do you think it's almost entirely down to actually getting a winning team and progressing up the ladder and out of the league, or do you think the work that the Bears do in the community can have an impact as well in building that brand and telling the story of the club a bit better?
The story of rugby league is one of community. The greatest strength of the sport always has been and still is the ability to relate to areas of cities that other sports can't get to. It's part of the working class DNA that the sport was born with, but it is making a significant impact in what would normally be termed deprived areas, and it will continue to do that. I think that rugby league's a very interesting place at the moment. Some might even say it's a bit of a crossroads of what it wants to become, and the fact that there is the Ricoh Arena that's staged internationals, the fact that there is an interest from WASPs to at least look at maybe having a 24/7 rugby operation. There's real potential for a city like Coventry, if rugby league wants to go down the route of starting to look at franchising itself out and making the most of the markets that are relatively new. I mean, I say that with the fact that 105 years ago these teams were playing each other, but new markets are what will sustain the sport, and cities that show initiative like the Bears by putting in an infrastructure first and then maybe building on the top of it, they possibly do have a future at a much higher level than this.
Yeah, but winning will obviously help. I think the fact that there are some biggish clubs in League One this year won't do clubs like Coventry anyhow, and Bradford will be playing you this coming season, and they're a big club, and that can only help. But obviously you will get noticed here when you start beating the more established teams, the likes of Hunslet and Bradford and teams like that. That's when I think people in the Heartlands will start to take notice.
And in terms of expansion in general, again, taking your point of view from the Heartlands and being really entrenched in the game, do you think it's working? Do you think it's a good thing? Because we've seen Toronto, we've seen Toulouse, we've got New York on the horizon, as well as teams like the Bears and teams in the south. Is it good for the game?
I think it goes back again to what we were saying earlier about the sport needs to decide what it wants to be.
Yeah.
We've got 4 years before the next television deal. And like every other major sport, this is financed by a broadcast company. The indications at the moment are that the offer they will make will be reduced. Nothing to do with the sport and the entertainment value, but just the changing broadcast media. And I think Rugby League needs to look at how it's going to generate some money to fill that void. It's going to do that, in my opinion, by bringing in television contracts from new markets, which might be the Americas, which would be where Toronto and potentially New York come in, from France, by maybe having a second team in Super League, which gives them a game every week on their national television service. And more than any other sport, this one has suffered from being geographically specific, because when there is an economic downturn, if all of your eggs are in a basket that runs the length and breadth of the M62, you're incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
A lot of the traditional clubs, I'm not sure, I refuse to use the word heartland on the basis of the fact that Coventry could be a heartland because they were playing this game so long ago.
Yeah.
But the traditionally based geographic clubs have had the industries and the schools and the pubs and the clubs and the working men clubs have all disappeared. They underpinned a lot of these clubs. If you lose some of your roots, you've got to find new ways of regenerating in different places. And so for me, expansion is absolutely 100% vital, provided it's done correctly.
Yeah, we're both committed expansionists. The only way the game is going to thrive is if it breaks out of its traditional areas. Just as someone wheels a rather noisy trolley past. That will, if we can break out of the traditional areas of Cumbria and the northwest and Yorkshire, then that will bring more money into the game, which the game desperately needs. It will create more publicity, which the game desperately needs, and we also need more players. And if you can get people in places like Coventry and Hemel and South Wales and North Wales playing the game, that's obviously better for everybody. It strengthens clubs in the north as well as the clubs, the so-called development clubs in those areas, and it'll strengthen the national team. I mean, you look at Castleford, who were the best side last season, although of course they didn't win the title. They had people like Mike McMeekin playing for them, who's a product of, I think Phil will be able to tell you, but he's from Basingstoke. Yeah, and the game is better for having people like that coming into the game, and that's I think something that Coventry will have an important role to play, introducing new people to the game, and we desperately need that.
And just one last question, because it's cold and you guys have got a very nice dinner to go through.
We don't feel it.
Well,
t-shirt weather.
Well, more importantly, you've got the hospitality dinner to go and enjoy. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Just before you go, though, as you mentioned, it is the Bears' 20th anniversary season, so I wondered if we could finish with you just giving a nice birthday well wishes to the Bears for the season.
I've nothing but love for Coventry Bears, particularly some of the people who are still involved in the club right from the very early days of when I first came across them in the Rugby League conference. Just met Ron Banks, who is just one of the nicest people you could ever wish to meet. He's the president of the club now, and I remember Ron when he started the club, and obviously I saw Alan play. I have nothing but love. I spent 3 very, very happy years here. A place that's close to my heart. I would love to see them in a conference of the Super League in 4 or 5 years to come. And let's hope that it's not too long before them even maybe gracing Wembley or Old Trafford.
Yeah, happy birthday to the Bears. Go well. I shall watch out for your results with interest this season, and I think it would be terrific for everybody involved in the sport if you can progress up that ladder and maybe be playing the likes of Leeds on an equal footing at some stage in the future. All the very best.
Guys, thanks so much. Enjoy your time at Butts Park Arena, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Hey, sorry to interrupt what I hope you think is a great listen, but I just have a quick request. Now, Craig and I have loved doing this podcast, and we will definitely be back next season regardless. In fact, we'd actually like to up our game next year and, make an official website for the podcast and give ourselves a proper home online. The thing is, web hosting, domain names and all of that sort of thing, that costs money. So in a properly British awkward manner, we would like to put out a call for sponsors. So if you or anyone you know would be interested in helping out this show and becoming one of our very first sponsors for 2018, then we would love to hear from you. If that sounds interesting, please send us an email to covbearspodcast@gmail.com and we'll get in touch with details about what we're looking for and what you'll get in return. So that's covbearspodcast@gmail.com. We should stress that we're not looking for much, but it all helps, and it will just help us make sure the show is as good as it can possibly be. Okay, thanks for that. Sorry about that as well. Anyway, now back to the podcast.
So there you have it. Many thanks to Martyn Sadler, to Phil Caplin and to Peter Smith for giving up some time to talk to us on our little podcast and for saying such nice things about the Bears. And it's a kind of recurring theme of the evening, Craig, just lots of positivity about the club, and to have that wave of good vibes going into the new season. We were excited already, but it's really exciting now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a perfect start to the season, really. A big crowd here Friday night. I'm looking forward to some of the big games that happen this season. I think the Bears have shown they can market big games. You've got the Bradford game, we've got a Newcastle game on a Friday night. It's just going to be, I'm very excited about the season ahead. I think we're... not much more I can say, really. You can probably hear the Leeds fans in the background that are still spilling out of the stadium. So, this is just new to us and it's just brilliant.
Well, yeah, I have to echo everything you said, Craig. I think this season's going to be a really fun one. And I feel like there's something about the team this year that I think are going to cause a few surprises. And we will be there all the way. So make sure you are subscribed to Bear Necessities, the world's greatest podcast about Coventry Bears. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, we're on Stitcher, we're anywhere you can get a podcast, or if you'd rather just subscribe on YouTube, do that as well, and make sure you check out covbearspodcast.com where you can find everything you need to know about us. So we're gonna go in and get warm. Craig's got an after party to go to, I've got a bed to go to, but what we're gonna do, Craig, to sort of sign off this first proper episode of the season, we're going to hand over to the Bears CEO, Alan Robinson. I caught up with him after the game. Clearly a very proud moment for Alan, so we'll leave the final word for him. But Craig, it's good, even though it's freezing cold for this summer sport, supposedly, it's great to be sat here watching a game at the Butts Park Arena with you again, and looking forward to doing this thing for the whole season. Yeah,
I mean, it's already made my year, this game, and I look forward to the season ahead.
Cool. Let's hand over to Alan and we will see you back when the season starts.
It's been unbelievable. Massive crowd, and people have come out to see us, but obviously Leeds have drawn a big crowd as well, but the boys have done us proud, and it's I think all our hard work has paid off. The score is sort of insignificant. It's the first game of the season. It's what we take from it, and we're going into our season now, and I think, I'm looking around and I'm thinking we're doing things the right way.
And you and I sat down in November and we're talking about some of the new signings and more of an emphasis on Midlands players and younger players, and it already looks like this team is starting to gel and starting to bond as a group. Do you get that impression as well?
Absolutely. Just the comments from the public tonight, and people can see that we're working hard for each other. That's something that has been a challenge in the past, but all we've got to do is work hard for each other on the field, and the boys have been working hard since November. This is the first game of the season. It's been a long slog, but I'm really, really confident. Could be a few shocks in there this season. Yeah. I think a few people are going to look at us tonight and think, we're moving in the right direction, and we made some great breaks, scored a couple of brilliant tries, and the score Leeds beat us well, but we can take so much from it, and they're a full-time squad. All their lads are the stars of the future of the game. Some fantastic players there. It's I'm absolutely, it's one of the proudest moments in the history of the club, and I don't know what else to say, really.
Well, one thing I noticed at the end when the teams came together for that joint team photo, there were fans standing around and there were fans applauding the Bears players off. And for a team that, yes, they've lost 14-70, but that shows that this crowd really appreciates the work the boys are putting in. And I mean, what message would you have for anyone who's perhaps come along tonight for a first time? What message do you have for them in terms of coming back in the season?
I've spoken to a lot of people tonight and everything's been positive. You know, the score, like I said, it's a little bit insignificant to what the event has brought us and brought rugby league and the sport. You know, we wanted to sort of remember, showcase the sport, and we've done that off the field. On the field, Tom and the guys have their own goals, and like I say, I'm very proud of them. But off the field, what we've achieved is been unbelievable. It was surpassed that. I don't know many clubs outside the traditional parts, areas, of the geographical areas of the game that could draw a crowd of 1,300 people on a late Friday night.
Yeah.
And I take something from that, and it says that hopefully we're doing things in the right way, and hopefully people will look at that and think, well, it's worth having a look at. And if we can start to build, we want to be part of the fabric of this city. We want to be, ingrained in the community. I think we're starting to do that, and hopefully today will be testament to it and be start of that legacy that we're trying to build.